All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's Michael, your host. I'm half of the Brothers Grimm, joined by my brother Franklin. Welcome back to the Jaggernaut podcast. All right.
Duval. I don't know what happened there. I'm always messing
we're
these
always
Duvals
off
up.
on that. You know, we don't
Sound
have
like
all
a
the
13-year-old boy in
sophistication of
puberty.
other podcasts, but as we said earlier, we give it to them raw.
Ooh, baby, I like it raw.
That's right. Immortal words from old DB himself from beyond the grave. Still sticks with us. All right. So tonight's podcast, what we're going to do is we're probably just going to do a lot of talking. But we're actually going to cover, but we're going to try to cover the defensive line. I think we're going to mix in some linebacker talk.
We have to roll with the linebackers. We're probably going 3-4 quite a bit. So I mean, it's odd.
You know what? Like I said, I didn't prepare to talk about linebackers because having played one, I always felt I was different than the defensive line. You know, the defensive line was always there to just basically get in the blocker's way so that I can make the tackle. So to me, they were different. They were separate. I can't tell you. I think I did. I think in high school I played on a 3-4. But that's the only time I remember playing on a 3-4, and it was okay. But yeah, if you want to talk about linebackers, I'm fine talking linebackers. We might as well throw them back in. Last week, if you guys missed it, go back, rewatch it. We covered the offensive line. We started with them first because we think that they're really the crutch. If they play well, I think we do well, or at least our offense does well. If they play bad, our offense is going to suck. So we're coming back with the next most important unit, which is the defensive line and linebackers. So thank you for joining us. If you guys like what you listen to, please click the subscribe button so you know when we put out content. Hit the like button. Drop us a comment. If you guys think we get it right, if you guys think we get it wrong, whatever. Just start some conversation. We check them, you know.
You sounded like a YouTuber, man.
Hey, man, I got a transition. Right?
Smash that like button.
Yeah. I mean, at first I didn't care. I'm like, whatever. Now I'm like, please hit the subscribe button.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It does sound a little bit like we're groveling. We don't care. I don't care. I mean, whatever. Don't do it. Actually, we don't want you.
Than comment. I'd rather respond to comments than them hit the subscribe button. You know?
Yeah, I mean, no, that's true.
To me, that's sort of where the action is. You know.
Yeah.
I like to get feedback, whether it's positive or negative. I like to get conversation going, whether they agree or disagree.
So. Yeah. Oh, I'll turn up some YouTube comments. I'm in a negative comment thread right now. Not about football or anything, but I have that reputation of doing that. So I patronize other people's comments. Come on, y'all.
So Franklin, the YouTube troll.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll explain it to you. Nah, they're trolling me, really. Yeah, they're trolling me.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get us started talking about the defensive line, linebackers.
Yeah. I thought you said D-line. I was going to say not the drum guys, the actual players on the defensive side.
Yeah, because, well, I mean, hell, last year I think the D-line, I don't even know if they were there due to COVID, but if they were, they probably played better than our D-line. Yeah.
Yeah, there were issues.
Smack somebody with one of those big symbols. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to get us started. I'm just going to give a quick rundown. So we got Malcolm Brown, who's a first-round draft pick of the New England Patriots. who left and went to the New Orleans Saints, and then we traded for him.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much his story. That's how he got to Jacksonville.
Well, give us a little bit on him. I mean, my understanding about this guy is he is a run stuffing guy. He's one of these dudes that you want on your team. You probably won't see the stat sheet light up, but for the people who watch and know what they're looking at when they break down film, he's going to, or coaches, I'm sure, like this type of guy too, where he makes the flashy players flash more, you know, like what you were talking about playing a linebacker. You want a guy that's going to get up and hog some space, cover up the offensive line guys, get in their way, allow the linebackers to make some tackles and things like that. So my understanding is he's pretty good at doing that. He's a good run stuffing guy, which boy, do we need on this team. If that's true. I don't know much about him, but
we definitely need a run stuffer. We need a pure Vince Wilfork, pure one technique guy. Put your ass on the ground and don't move. You see eat up the center, one of the guards. Take your pick, depends on which way the line flows. Take those two guys and just stand there. That's what we need. So I went and I was watching YouTube highlights. I'm not going to say I watched film because I don't have any film. I don't have the all 22 film to break down to him. But to be honest with you, in his highlights, I didn't see a lot of run stuff. Now, I didn't see him. Obviously, it's highlights. And the way that the game goes is everybody cares about sacks. You know, everybody cares about all kinds of stuff. They don't really care. If that's what he does, it's not in his YouTube highlights. And I didn't see it. I'm not 100% sure on the guy. I really don't know. I obviously did not watch New England. I did not watch the Saints very much, at least, key in on him, last year. So I don't really know what to make of him. I will say this. What I did take from his highlight reel was the dude is an effort guy. Like he made on one of the plays, he made a tackle like 40 yards downfield. Like you get a big dude who's willing to do that. That is effort. That's how you see effort. Another thing is that he seems to be extremely intelligent. He seems to know basically what the offense is trying to do, what the guys in front of him are trying to do. And he seems to be able to hold his own and know how to counter that, if that makes sense. I didn't see him out of position much, but I don't think he's going, unlike Vince Wilfork, who was a freaking Mack truck in the middle of the defense. I don't think this guy is really going to win off of pure talent. I think he's got to know his technique. He's going to have to be a very all-around sound player to achieve the role we're going to ask him to play. I know it doesn't sound very complicated because I'm just like, well, just put your ass in the ground and stay there. But when you have guys who are trying to push you out, up in your face, knowing what to do with your hands, knowing how to position your body, all that can help you.
Well, I was just looking and I noticed he's been in the league for 7 years. So if he hasn't figured that out by now, and the fact that he's been on multiple teams, my understanding is that the Saints liked the guy. It was a scenario where they're in cap trouble.
Hell, yeah.
Yeah. So they had to lose some guys. So he just was a cap casualty. It wasn't a scenario where he didn't play well. So you're talking about a guy who came in the league with somewhat of a standing or a reputation. What did you say he was drafted first round? He was drafted by the Patriots.
Yeah, he was a first round. He was a late first rounder by the New England Patriots.
Yeah. So he's been with 2 winning organizations. So if that counts for anything, sometimes they say that works, you get some guys who are used to winning and bring them over to a losing club. It's like, help, please. So hopefully it's something like, and he looks he's 320, 6'2", so he looks kind of like a fire plug type guy as far as that's concerned. Maybe I'm guessing that he will be the starting nose tackle, and probably Devon Hamilton will be his backup.
Now, see, it's funny that you bring up Devon Hamilton, because that's what I thought. I thought Devon Hamilton would transition over to also be the one technique, just based off of what I saw last year. But I'm looking at the CBS roster, that what they think is going to be the build out of this defense, and they actually have they don't have Devon Hamilton there. They actually have him as a third string on the left defensive end.
Well, this type of thing is difficult because depth chart, I don't think it means that much when you're talking about defensive linemen usually, because most coaches, and this coach for sure, is it Joe Cullen? Is that who are?
Yeah, Joe Cullen.
Joe Cullen, he likes to rotate. He wants fresh defensive guys. So, it's almost like it doesn't really matter that much. I mean, he may end up, CBS may put him as third string defensive end, but he may end up getting, a decent amount of snaps by the time the game is out. And I don't know, they may have him going there. I mean, and that's the thing about 3-4 too. If you don't have a big old fat guy, and that's what I always think of when nose tackles, like just this big fat guy. Then a lot of times your one technique looks, I don't know, just like your defensive end might look, as far as size is concerned.
So I agree with you when you say one technique. When you say nose tackle, I'm thinking Billy Bob. Big old hoss, just sitting there clogging up the lane. The bigger the better, as long as they can move decent. So I get what you're thinking, but for I think what we're asking, I really think Devon Hamilton would really be best as that backup, and then follow him up with Jay Tuafale, the guy we just got out of USC.
Yeah.
I think right there you got our three nose tackles, because I think if you ever want to go to a 4-3 or show a 4-3 look, you can put Devon Hamilton, Doug Constant, or Jay Tuafale. You can put them as your tackles. And I think that'll work out just fine, honestly, from what I'm looking at. So to me, I don't really see why they have Devon Hamilton as a left defensive end.
I just think it all bleeds over at a certain point. I think you're going to see some shifts. You're not going to see, even though they're going to rotate, but they're going to rotate guys in. You'll see guys who, they'll come in one time and they'll do one technique, and then they'll come in and they'll do the defensive end. Just because, like I said, the nature of rotating defensive linemen, and the fact that, you also, the other thing that you need to consider too, is that although the trajectory and the idea is that we run a 3-4 based on this idea that we're going to do what Joe Cullen likes to do, the other thing to think about is the fact that we were a 4-3 last year. And so from what they've said, they're not going to run primarily 3-4. It's going to be sort of a hybrid. At times they're going to run 4-3. So when you have, and it'd be interesting to see too in the season when they choose, I'd be interested to sort of do a breakdown on that, get an idea about, down and distance philosophy on, what Cullen thinks is the better formation to go with. if there's some pattern that he has in mind for that. And so I don't know. I mean, and that's just why I said, you know, we kind of have to sort of talk about some of the linebackers because they're going to be in the mix on, you know, if they're running 4-3, yeah, it's a nice, you can leave those guys out, but I mean, what do you do with Josh Allen? I mean, they've got him listed as linebacker now, and he was our defensive end in our 4-3 last year.
Yeah, and I think Josh Allen is sort of one of those. Okay, to me, Josh Allen is the better ball player, pure NFL ball player, and here's why: because Josh Allen, I think, is going to have no trouble going from a 4-3 defensive end to a 3-4 outside linebacker. Kason, who I actually think is probably going to have a really good year this year, right? Because he played most of the time standing up at LSU. He had a hard time playing defensive end with his hand on the ground. I actually think this defense will help him. Yeah. So look, we can get back to that on linebackers. Let's run. If I can, I'm going to try to step this up a little bit faster and sort of run through this a little bit quicker. All right, so we got Roy Robinson Harris. He was actually undrafted, rookie by the Bears. Again, I didn't see him versus on his highlight reel. I didn't see him versus the run a lot, but he has the size. He has everything that you look for in a 3-4 defensive end. He is a larger, bigger NFL defensive end. He's not as quick, but he has the size to hold up against the run. Yeah, he is a big dude. When I watched him, I saw a ton of effort. Again, another guy chasing plays down. You know, didn't quit on anything.
Yeah.
Another thing
he seems like a good dude too, based on his interviews. He just seems like, you know, a guy that you want. He seems stable. You know, somebody you could put some, you know, you invest in. You feel like you're going to get some kind of a feed. You know, he'll give you what he's got.
Right.
Because he's in it for the right reasons.
Yeah, I mean, he seems that way when I hear him talk. But he actually does seem like a guy to me who could win off his talent. I think there will be times this year where he will be naturally a better athlete, smarter, quicker, faster than the guy who's in front of him. So I think he can win some of these one-on-one matchups and sort of create problems for the offensive line.
Well, I think if you get some guys, it'd be interesting where he lines up. You know, if I could, so he's going to be, if you think about a 3-4, he's going to be your defensive
left
end,
starting left defensive end.
Yeah. So now, where does that put him in? Now, where does that put? Is he next to Josh Allen, or is he on the other side?
No, okay. So in a 3-4, Kason will be playing to his right and behind him.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Kason's not an outside linebacker in our 3-4?
He should be, yes.
Okay. Gotcha. You're throwing me off when you say out behind him. Well, I don't consider outside linebacker behind defensive ends on 3-4.
Because technically when you draw up a 3-4, the linebackers are about 1.5 yards to 2 yards behind the defensive line. All right, so next we have Devon Hamilton. I thought when he was healthy last year, he was one of the bright spots on our D-line. I thought our defense got worse when he got hurt. I like him. I haven't seen anything bad. I think he's developing just fine. I think he has the potential to be a one technique in a 3-4, or potentially be that big clog in a 4-3. You know, if you're playing the run. I think if you're playing the pass, I think we have better options.
Yeah. I mean, I think I like the idea, you know, when you start really digesting some of these guys, Tufele and Hamilton mix, with these are two of the younger guys. When you bring the two veterans in with, Harris and Brown, I like that combination. It seems like it might, I could see it producing. It certainly is something better than what we've seen from this defensive line in the past couple years for sure.
All right. So now we have Doug Constance, whatever. I'm horrible at these names, so forgive me, guys. Now, last year he played as a defensive tackle for us. I think he is small enough to play one of the end positions, to be a backup on one of the end positions. So when I looked at the depth chart, or the proposed depth chart, they have him right behind Roy Robertson Harris. And to me, that makes sense. I think he can play that. I don't see an issue why he couldn't. He can come in and potentially be a pass rush defensive tackle in a 4-3. So I kind of like that.
Yeah, he just seems like, I remember him making some plays last year. It's sort of, he wasn't starting because he was a starter. He was there because everybody was getting hurt. So, but he made the most out of it, I think. And we'll see. Honestly, I think it's possible he might not even make the roster. I wouldn't be surprised. But
okay, well, I, sir, am going to disagree with you on that, because this next guy coming up.
I know where you're going.
Yes, sir, I am. And my hatred for this guy, so, and he seems like
that's Costin's roster spot, huh?
Yeah, that's his roster spot. Because if we keep this dude and he's played like he's played the last 4 years, Urban Meyer, all of them, Khan needs to sell the team, and Urban Meyer needs to go back into the booth and talk about college football. So the next guy, Mr. Tavian Bryant. Taven, whatever. he doesn't deserve to have his name called right. I'm not even apologizing, because he's been that bad.
Yeah.
Not only has he been that bad, but he was a first-round draft pick. So you suck, and you were a first-round draft pick. That is 2 strikes against you, man.
Another Gator defensive lineman.
You're only as good as your weakest link, and
the ghost of Derek Harvey strikes again.
Yeah, or Reggie Nelson, or any of the other top Gators that we have got. Who was the last one we got? Who was the defensive end? Blew out his Achilles in like mini camp.
Oh yeah.
He was a linebacker, I think, and we brought him in.
I don't know why I'm spacing, but he went to the Rams. Now he's not. I don't think he's with the Rams anymore. He might be with another team.
I don't know.
He was a free agent this year, I think.
Made me feel good. He wasn't good with anybody else. He would flash here or there. Made you think he had promise, but
anyway, I was upset when we drafted that guy.
His name escapes me, but he.
It's fine.
Tavon Bryant is just another guy in the long list of Gators who we have drafted and who have failed here.
Yeah, the best Gator lineman we ever had, I think he was a Gator, was Bobby McCray. And he was like, we didn't
a 7th round draft pick. Yes, he was a 7th round draft pick. Okay. That's where to the NFL, that's where you should draft Gators, in the 7th round. All right.
Uh-oh.
So now
we haven't even got to corners. I can't wait to hear your opinion about C.J. Henderson.
Hey, oh yeah, see, I forgot about him. He actually is the latest that we've drafted. So Tavon Bryant. Now here's something. I don't like him. I don't think he's ever been really good. When he does penetrate.
He penetrates a lot. You watch.
He just doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, it's the most amazing. He's amazing to watch. I mean, if you watch him, he's a physical guy. You can tell. He just he just doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't seem to have a clue. If the offense is flowing to the right, he goes left. I mean, it's just the strangest thing to see. I don't know. It is amazing to watch. He's an enigma to me.
Yeah. Anyway, I concur. I thought we should have cut him after training camp last year to send a signal to the rest of the players that it doesn't matter where you're drafted. If you don't fucking show up and play and give us all you got, we're going to cut you. To me, as a coach, a GM, that's how you send the signal to your players. The best guy starts. I don't care if the best guy is your 7th round draft pick and you drafted the same position in the 3rd round. If that guy is balling, that guy starts. That's the way it needs to be. I'll throw this at you. So when I was doing my research and I pulled up this CBS, the proposed lineup for a defense, what do you think that possible? Now, I'm trying to be optimistic here. You guys already know I don't like to do that. Putting Taven Bryant, the right defensive end in a 3-4.
Like, will it improve?
Like maybe, maybe at Florida, if you're a Florida fan and you know this, when he was there, did Florida run a 4-3 or a 3-4? I thought it was a 4-3.
I think it was a 4-3. Well, okay, so you asked me that
question.
Drop
us a comment.
Yeah. Okay, so there's 2 ways that I want to answer this question. If you tell me, just like pulling back, not having been really experienced watching Taven Bryant, you tell me you've got a guy who has skills, physical skills, who was a 1st round draft pick, and you've got a brand new regime, a brand new formation and defensive philosophy. I think there's an opportunity for a guy to turn things around. However, having watched Taven Bryant, I don't know how it gets better to be more toward the outside. I mean, I don't know enough about the responsibilities of defensive ends in a 3-4 versus a tackle in a 4-3 to really know. I mean, if you tell me that there's far less responsibility, maybe, or it doesn't matter if he doesn't know what the heck is going on because he's just playing defensive end in a 3-4, which to me, I think, yeah. So I don't know how I don't know how you could ever succeed in the highest profession if you don't know what you're doing at that job, or you seem to always not understand what's going on. I mean, I can't imagine any profession where, only in this kind of line of work, because you got these coaches' egos where they go, well, I can. So to that point, I could see him making the team just because maybe they see his athletic ability and they go, the last regime couldn't get what they needed out of this guy, but we can, because I'm Urban Meyer and I'm Joel Cole. This is the way these coaches tend to think.
Man, and I agree with you, but what we've seen time in and time out is that a turd is a fucking turd.
Yeah.
You can't change it.
Yeah.
You can put sprinkles on it, but it's still a turd.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. So for me, if they cut him, I feel good about it. And if they keep him, I could see somebody trying to make the argument that this would be, because it even crossed my mind. That was actually one of the first things I thought about, was I wonder how Taven Bryant's going to be in a 3-4 defense. But, once you sit and digest the fact that the guy seems to have a problem in the head. I mean, I don't know if he could be a genius. You know, he could be a genius.
I'm not a smart man, Tavian.
Well, I say that. Let me put
But
a
I
caveat
know
on
what
that.
love is.
Let me put a caveat on that, because you could have, I mean, you could find out, it would not shock me to find out Taven Bryant's some kind of genius, right? And he's in this great body, but somehow there's this lack of
Disconnect.
instinct, you know, because you see some of these quarterbacks out there that throw the ball, they're instinctual there, and then you hear them talk and you're like, you're not smart at all, you know. So then yet they can decipher defenses, you know. These guys, there's part of it's brains, but part of it is some sort of instinct, you know, just reaction, you know, and maybe that's what he's lacking. I don't really have like I said, he's an enigma to me. You watch him, he can beat the man in front of him very often. Then he's gone out of the picture when he should be making a play after that. And he never does. He never does. So I don't know how you coach that out of somebody. I don't know how you make that change because he shifted over a little bit.
I don't actually think you can. I think at this level, you expect that innate ability to be present when you reach the highest peak of your profession.
Yeah, my expectation is, I don't know. My idea is the way it should work out is he should be cut, and he'll probably he'll probably go to another team somewhere. They'll probably give him a little cup of coffee because they'll think the same thing. It's like, oh, we can do something with this guy.
Look at this specimen. He's not a turd. Yeah. So. All right. So question here, and this is what I found funny because I did not see this guy immediately anywhere I looked, which was interesting. Dwayne Smoot.
I like him.
I like him too.
Yeah.
I wonder why. I guess CBS doesn't like him. They have him not making the squad.
Yeah, no, that's silly.
So maybe
they re-signed him for a reason.
Maybe it's him. I would love to. I think he's much better than Taven Bryant, and I would. Although I think he plays the same side as Harris, but I would be much rather. I would rather put my money on him to be able to switch sides and still play like the big end than Bryant making this roster.
Yeah, it gets me thinking. It gets me thinking about who our defensive linemen are going to be. And maybe we'll do a show where we try to pick the starting roster. I definitely imagine Dwayne Smoot making the squad. You know, it's interesting. We've got a lot of defensive linemen here. Laurenti McCray's been on the team for a little bit too.
And I think he's fine as a backup. I think he's fine as a backup end.
How many? So we have 3 defensive tackle starting spots on a 3-4, obviously. How many backups? How many defensive linemen do you think make the squad?
6 or 7
3 positions.
6 or 7.
6 or 7. Okay. See, I
think
it's about point,
it's almost about the same as your offensive line.
Okay, so now did you have an agenda? Have it on the agenda to talk about Jordan Smith?
Actually, I did not.
So he's somebody that we probably need to talk about. And it may be because, so on the depth chart that you're looking at, is he there at all? Because we did draft this guy. What?
Yeah, no, I don't have him at all.
Was he like our 4th or 5th pick in the draft?
Yeah, I think he was our 4th pick or 3rd round. Yeah, I think it was the 3rd round because we had 2 1s and 2 2s.
Somebody I want to know a little bit more about is Jihad Ward. He may be, yeah, because he comes from the Ravens, and Joe Cullen comes from the Ravens. So Cullen knows something about the guy. So it makes me wonder, if he's got a little bit of an advantage, and somebody who we think, we may put in there is going to be on the street because this guy's here. We hadn't brought him up. This guy's 6'5", 287. They've got him as defensive end, so I'm thinking that he's probably, he's a similar size to Robertson Harris.
Which is potential. What I'm looking at on the CBS one, they have him as an outside linebacker.
Jihad Ward?
Yeah. They have him backing up Josh Allen.
It could be. He just seems a little bit oversized for that position. He looks the size of a 3-4 defensive end, not a 3-4 outside linebacker. But, I am somebody who doesn't admittedly know a lot about 3-4 other than 3 defensive linemen, 4 linebackers. But, yeah, what I will say about this is that I feel like we've got a lot of chess pieces here.
Yes, and so it will be extremely interesting come training camp to see who makes it. Because honestly, I think we have too many.
Yeah, there's no question, because that's what happens in the offseason. You got a 90-man roster. So let me just run through here what we've got. I'm going to count them up real quick. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We've got 14 guys who are vying for. Now, admittedly, these are guys that you could see transitioning over to outside linebacker, like you just mentioned with Jihad Ward. But that's a lot of guys. I like the fact that they are really focused on getting some guys here who
well, we should. We were horrible against the run. And we put zero pressure on the opposing quarterbacks.
Yeah. Well, not only was our defense untalented, but our defense was wrecked by injury last year. It really was. So
it wasn't good for a whole lot of reasons.
Yeah, it wasn't going to be great to start with anyway.
I think 2 guys held out due to COVID. Another guy got hurt. Okay, but every NFL team has to deal with that. So I'm not using that as an excuse. But back to my earlier point, I think Kason has a good year this year. I think he fills that 3-4 outside linebacker role a hell of a lot better than he does the 4-3 defensive end.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And then, like, something happened with Miles Jack last year. I don't know exactly what it was, but he would play good and then he would just fall apart. So I don't know what's up with that. Now, Schobert, he seems okay.
Yeah, I it's interesting to see how Miles Jack's going to do in a 3-4. If you got to here was what may be the biggest change for me. 3-4, 4-3 aside, we have a defensive coordinator who is more aggressive now than the one that we did have, and I just like that. On defense, especially the way that the NFL is run nowadays, you can't sit back and do bend, don't break, because the whole rule system is set up for the offensive to win. So to me, the only chance you have as a defense is to make big plays, just to do, be aggressive, try to keep the offense on their heels. You can't let them be comfortable and then also have the rules stacked against them. It's a recipe for disaster. And that was one thing with Todd Wash. It's like vanilla. Vanilla. And, it's one of those things where I kind of wonder, because this is something that I've been curious about, because I have heard there's this philosophy out there that you can't do exotic things if you don't have good personnel. And I
Right, the
almost
talent.
wonder, is that really true? Because I almost feel like if you had great personnel, I'd be more inclined to do less exotic things. I'd be taking less chances, because it's like, oh, I'm fine with my guys. You want to line up one on one against my guys, which are like one of the best in the league? Great, I'll take my chances. But if I don't have that, I want to keep things crazy. I'm going to try to get you on your heels so that you don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to be super aggressive. I'm going to have all these things going on. You never know which way I'm coming from, because, yeah, I'm going to expose myself in some area on the defense. That's inevitable. But if you're just going to sit back and rely on guys to make plays, you better have guys that make plays. And to me, that's the way I look at it. And so, if you got a guy that, as a defensive coordinator, is more aggressive, takes more chances at the right times in the right way, to me, that could be the biggest thing. And I tell you what, our team could win games if we get the defense turned around, offensive line notwithstanding. That's a huge deal. I mean, imagine if the offensive line coheres and there's some creativity on the offense to get the ball loose, which it looks like they're going to really try to do based on the way the personnel is going, and the defense becomes average. I mean, that's all we really need, and we're not asking for, we're not even asking to win the AFC South at this point, although that would be great to, at least toward the last half of this year, to be able to look like a team that could start.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if we could be somewhere around 500 to end the year, I think that's a reasonable expectation, especially considering the way people feel about the program right now. So I don't know. Maybe it's pie in the sky. I shouldn't be talking like this because I am a Jags fan.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because one thing I've been talking about, or one thing I've been thinking about, is what we've been hearing coming out of OTAs, right? And it's, man, I love this dude. I love that dude. System's great. We're going to throw it down. We're going to be badass. This dude, he came from Mars. He's an alien. He plays like nobody I've ever seen. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Go to New England, you hear it, right? Go to some other shitty team.
Probably heard it last year.
Yes, I mean, just when I'm reading this stuff, and you see it all over the place.
Yeah.
When you read this shit, just understand that these guys, they get paid to play football, but they also get paid to put on a front. They don't criticize each other until they're no longer teammates. That's when the dirty laundry comes out. That's when, we'll hear people saying, man, Trevor Lawrence was shit. He was garbage. He came in and couldn't hit, a fire truck parked in the end zone. So just be careful what you read. If you really want to know, go out to training camp, look with your own eyes. Trust what your own eyes are telling you. Watch the games. You'll see guys mess up. You'll see it in the preseason. Watch the games, trust your eyes. Don't listen to what the hell they have to say, at least right now. When it comes to training camp time, I think it can be a little bit different, because it's not so much what they say, it's what they don't say. And it's the same thing with the coaches.
Have you noticed anything that they're not saying? I mean, do you have anything right now to think of, or are you just generally wondering what might be out there looming that you haven't thought of?
So like for the players haven't not said anything. They have been giving Trevor Lawrence some kudos and not really talking too bad about him. Urban Meyer, on the other hand, which is a little bit refreshing, he had a bad period. I think he threw like 2 interceptions back to back, I believe, and they were both big sixes, or would have been. And Herb got up to the podium and basically said, "Yeah, he had a bad day." Now he didn't say what he did. It took the media, somebody from the media, posting what he did to kind of put it together. But I was honestly, I kind of like that. I like the fact that he was like, "Yeah, he had a bad day." He could have been better. He could have done some stuff better. I like it. Like, you don't have to come out and say the guy's a piece of shit, but at least give me something to let me know really what truly is going on. You know, don't come out and be like, "No, he was great." No, the receiver ran the wrong route.
I'll tell you what, much like how, you know, if you watch mainline news, CNN, Fox, or something like that, you're going to get a line fed to you, regardless of what side of the political spectrum you fall on. I think you get the same thing. I think you were alluding to that in the sports world as well, especially from the team media, you know. So I think for what we're doing here, and others are doing it too, the idea of getting just fan communication, fan observation, like you said. I mean, how many times have you watched something and you're like, why are they saying this guy's good? Because it's been a number of games now, and we keep seeing that he ain't good, or he is not playing good, you know, and yet you keep getting fed some sort of line, and it makes you wonder if there's, you know, some winks and nods about, let's not throw Joe under the bus. He's trying really hard, you know.
But see, okay, so that's the problem with our local media. Our local media, who covers the Jags, they honestly have no whereabouts at all. Like, they have no cojones. They suck because they simply refuse to say what their eyes tell them. They toe the company line. And in a way, I get it, because if the Jaguars take away their ability to interview a guy, then they lose people who are going to listen to it. They lose listeners. They lose, you know, people on podcasts. You know, all of a sudden, nobody's going to watch them. So then their career tanks. All right. So everybody's got a roof to pay for. Everybody's got a mouth to feed. I get that. I really do. But at some point, you should be able to figure out a way to sort of call it how you see it, and not do it in such a manner. Like me, I would piss off everybody, because I'd be like, "Man, Miles Jack sucked. Did you see the angle he took at 7 minutes in the third quarter? You know, like, what the hell?" You know, so I get that, but I like the fact that Herb came out and said he just didn't have a good day. Right? That's all you can have. I mean, that's really all they have to say. Like, look at Chark. I don't know what the hell was going on with him. He did not have a good day. All right, cool. You don't have to really get into specifics, but not everything is so great. You know, not everything should be so great. You know, I'm like, how much are we going to kiss these guys' ass? They've had almost everything handed to them since Pop Warner, because they were the biggest, the strongest, and the fastest. And then here we are in our local media doing the same thing, feeding their ego, stroking their ego. Well, dude, if you were good on the field, you wouldn't have to worry about the media. That's why sometimes I like the bigger city medias. I like the New York media. I like the Philly media, because if some guy messes up, they will drop the hammer on him. Now, sometimes I think they take it too far, or they're a little too quick.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it goes the other direction. And with them, it's almost like who can have the freshest take, you know, who can have the most. Yep. They're all like trying to be Howard Stern, and they want this exotic, you know, story that somebody, they're probably all wanting to be the bad boy of of the, covering. Oh, here comes the bad boy who's going to write the story about us. You know,
yeah.
So it kind of makes you wonder. You know, it's interesting too, because I almost wonder why it's like that there and not here, because you know the media.
Oh, that's easy. That's easy. I can. How many sports talk radios do we have here today? Stations.
One.
How many newspapers do we have here?
Yeah, no, I get that part, but that almost to me makes it seem like, so if you think about it economically, if you have less of something, it becomes more valuable. So if you know you have a position that's super valuable to the Jaguars, then you have some bargaining of power. So if they come to you and they say, we want you to toe the company line, you go, there's no other game in town. You know, you got to play by our rules. It's a 50-50 deal here. You know, yeah, there's no other sports team in town. Man, maybe that's the issue. Maybe it's something about the fact that we don't have other sports teams where they feel like, you know, it's so ingrained in the city. And maybe it's something, you know, because the fan base does get maligned with the whole not selling seat stuff. And so maybe it's a scenario, but, you know, but there's a separation between the fans and the team. And that doesn't actually help the situation in my mind now that I speak it out loud, because the truth is that who do you blame for the fact that they haven't sold out? It's the people who've been running the organization into the ground for the last 2 decades. You know?
Yeah. Okay. So the one thing we've seen over and over again about Jags fans, and it's a little sad, but it's true. If they win, the Jags fans show up. Like the Jags fans will come. They will be loud. They'll do everything they're supposed to. How many times have we seen it where we get a glimmer of hope and they're like, yeah, we need fans to show up. Boom, stadium sold out. And then what happens? 42 to 3.
Themselves.
Yeah, 42 to 3. The team steps on the field and shits themselves.
Yeah.
That's the problem. The problem's the team. The problem isn't the city. The problem's the team.
Yeah, and I think that is definitely the case. Man, I forgot what I was going to say about that, but it's just the fact that
look at him. I hit you with the left with them vocab words. You go like, oh my God. Look, that truth just knocked you out.
It's a shame though, because the thing is this, like, what power as a fan do you actually have, except for the fact that you know, if you have a crappy product, isn't that the type of product you don't buy? As a consumer, that's the power of the consumer. And
that is correct.
And the media is coming to the aid of this terrible business on behalf of them and not on behalf of the consumer. And so, yeah, they should be taken to task because they suck. They've sucked for a long time.
And that's it. But the local media, okay, so I think it sort of starts with the local media. These people won't say that. Why? I don't know. I mean, to me, they got to pay a bill. You know, they got bills to pay. You know, but that's exactly what it is. It's not the fans here. It's not people unwilling to buy season tickets. Hell, we had season tickets, right? We don't anymore, because you're talking about a 9, 10, 11-hour day to show up and watch a team that would get their ass whooped by Alabama.
Yeah.
I mean, how many years? What? It was like 7 years. That wears on you. It wears on you as a fan, you know? And then you're just like, well, fuck it. They gave up on me first.
Yeah. Yeah, it becomes a scenario where, and this is what they're dealing with now, because I think everybody, or there's so many, and God bless people if they are still holding on to their ticket and they've been there the whole time. You know, I'm not I
And
get it.
there are those people.
And great on them. I appreciate it, but they also have to understand too that there's people like us that, you know, we have to make choices, and we think that it makes sense not to support crap because you have that ability as a consumer. And the thing that always bothered me after so many years of, when you have nobody's saying the average fan is a genius, but the truth is that when you watch everybody in this league, the powers that be on all these teams, very few of them are geniuses in what they do. Like you can figure out on one hand, and you could probably name them, and we probably would name the same ones. Now, as far as coaches, probably a little bit easier, and maybe some general managers if you get to another hand, but there's not a lot of them. That they're not. This isn't rocket science. And so what happens is that when your team in a league that it isn't rocket science, they're like the special bus or the short bus every year. Every year we're the special needs crew. And and then they go, oh, what? There's something wrong with you because you don't support it, and that wears on you because then they do the whole. I don't have a big ego. I have some patience, but the one thing that does bother me is for somebody to insult my intelligence. I don't claim to know everything, but when you're going to sell me that somebody like Gene Smith, who continues to make the most idiotic moves, he's the guy that we're supporting. And you go, you're a bad guy if you don't support the team anymore because we've got this great
GM.
Yeah, we're making we drafted the best punter. I mean, we've got Matt Jones, we've got Derek Harvey. It's like nobody wanted them. Nobody. Well, I wanted Matt Jones. I'll be honest about that. But but we're entitled to make mistakes, though. They're not. They're the ones with all the information. So that's the problem. When they tell us we're the idiots and you go, I'd be just as bad as you. Like, you're the one that's supposed to be they hired you for a reason. They didn't hire me. I'm not the one making the money. So that's where, as a fan, you kind of go, man, why do you guys treat us like we're the ones that we're like the fan base is the bad guys, and yet the teams just struggle. Oh, this year's the year, boys. Like, and that's where you're getting back to this idea about training camp talk, because they're trying to gin up ticket sales and stuff. And it's like, now we went real negative. we went Jaguar fan on them. This is
yeah. So that's one thing we can dish out.
We're jaded, man.
Negativity.
We got to be one of the most jaded fan bases in the league. Next.
No, there are worse.
Browns and
Detroit.
Yeah. Only because they're storied franchises and they should have some, we're the upstart, somehow we got a team people or what have you. So, I get that, but it's still at a certain point, we're not asking to win a Super Bowl here. We're just asking to not be a laughing stock. That's what we're looking for. So, but where I was heading was this. I wasn't a huge Urban Meyer fan. But I do like the fact that it feels like people are buying into it. And at this point, he's successful. He's always been successful. Everybody thinks in successful ways. There's the trajectory has been successful. So we haven't screwed it up yet. So I'm hoping that it doesn't happen, and that we somehow can muster this trajectory and get going in a positive direction. I don't think that's too much to ask, especially when it seems reasonable at this point for a 500 season. We could, come on, guys, 500.
Win 2 for the Gipper.
2. No, not
We need, hey, Urban Meyer says we got to do 2+. So you got to win 3 for the Gipper.
Well, now that there's 17 games, can we go 4-13?
Well, I suppose that's 3 for the Gipper. Yeah.
I guess it's funny. We can't go 500 anymore.
Nope.
It's impossible.
Nope.
So,
Yep.
Crap. They would do it to us on this year.
Yeah.
Now we're destined to go, what?
Sub 500.
Yeah.
So.
7-10.
But, I mean, who knows? Maybe if
8-9.
Maybe if Herb's right, the turnaround can be faster than we think. Maybe Trevor Lawrence is the guy we think he is. I'm going to do what I probably always do. Like, I've already bought my Trevor Lawrence jersey. So that's sitting in my closet. I'm just waiting to wear it. I'm going to pick a game or two and go. And because that's what I always do. You know, normally I buy a hat, but I got plenty of hats that I haven't worn. So I'm still good on that.
Well, me too. It makes it difficult because of the way, you want to support your team. And the other problem that you got is you got all this virtue signaling that the NFL does they were doing all last year. So it's like, man, just play football, guys. We don't need this in sports. So that makes it more difficult too.
I agree with you, but that, sir, was not a topic for tonight's discussion.
I wasn't going down it. I think it was it's tangential to the conversation, I think.
All right. All right. I just wanted to pull you back just in case. Just say, hey, bud, just not tonight.
Yeah.
Well,
we do have a defensive lineman named Jihad. Just throwing it out there. Bringing it back.
Dude, when you pronounce it, it sounds dirty.
What is it? What now? Is there a different way to pronounce it? That's how I heard it pronounced.
I don't know. It just sounds dirty.
Do I pronounce it too much like a Southern guy?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Jihad. There's no way to pronounce that good, I don't think. Poor guy.
Yeah, well.
He's probably a decent guy, and he got named after Holy War. I don't know. Maybe if you're a football player, that's maybe not be a bad.
That depends on if he goes out there and wreaks havoc. If you go wreak havoc on the opposing team, dude, jihad your ass all the way to glory. I'm cool with that. If not, well, it's just funny. I don't know.
So any more thoughts on the defensive line do you think we covered everything?
Yeah, I think we got it pretty much well covered. Again, I think they have a lot of pieces to mix and match. Exactly who does what, when, where, how. That's something we're just going to have to see. Again, I think a lot of the starting lineup will shake out in training camp when they're actually hitting. Most likely a lot of the practices, they're not going to let the fans to, but that's the way it happens every year. Yeah. So, yeah, and I actually sort of like some of the pieces. I still think, though, we may be susceptible to the run. Again, I mean, if I'm a one technique, I want my YouTube highlight to show stuffing people. Like, look, I'm taking on 3 dudes. That was me. That's why that linebacker made that play. That's me. That's what I think. I think for the first time in probably quite some time, I am a lot more behind the Jags than I normally am at this time of year. Normally, I'm always extremely cynical, which I still am, but I'm less so. And I believe we may actually be turning the corner and going in a positive direction, where we actually do field the team that shows up and does play. And I don't care if we lose in the fourth quarter with 3 seconds left to a field goal. I don't, because that's going to happen. But when you're getting blown out and you watch and it's like the game's over because, well, nobody showed up.
Yeah.
Like, well, okay, that's the disheartening thing. And to me as a Jags fan, it's always been that way.
Yeah.
Almost, outside of the very early 90s, I remember going and watching Peyton Manning, and dude, it looked like we had a chance. And we would kick that ball off and Peyton Manning go bloop, 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 touchdown. Then we kick the ball off again, it's bloop, 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 bloop. And we never even had a chance in the game. Every now and again, but I feel like if not this season, potentially next. I'm not crazy about this season. I'm not really sweating it a ton because I think it's after this season. I think after this season is when I start saying, here's our window.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is our winning window.
Well, that's the reasonable NFL fan take. And that's the thing that frustrates me, I think, quite a bit about the way that the Jag fan is maligned, or not in recent years. I do think that has stopped quite a bit, but it wasn't fair when when the national media was doing it to us, because we have other teams fans come to town, and we have some experience with the NFL fan base. And I think the Jaguar fan base is a reasonable and smart fan base, and people, they haven't been given a good product, and they knew it, and that's going to have its ramifications at the ticket office, and that's just the way it's supposed to be. It's not it's not a negative moral issue on the fan base. But to the point, like what you said, we've got Trevor Lawrence now, and we've got hope. We've got a guy who, his floor has got to be one of the highest floors a quarterback has ever had. If you can maximize that potential, maximize his abilities, and then here's the deal too. So we'll get into that too. I don't know what the next episode's going to be. Have we talked about that as far as what side of the ball?
I actually think the next one coming up will basically be the secondary and wide receiver / potential running backs.
You want to do all of them at once?
Yeah, I'm ready to just go ahead and throw the whole team in there, because now we're just talking about skill position guys. We can go over the secondary. I don't think
skill position guys. Is that how you see them?
Well, how do you see a quarterback?
I don't know. It's opposite. Well, you seem to be the opposite of what most fans are. Most fans don't care about the lines so much. They're more or less looking at where the ball goes. So it's interesting that you're like, now that we've covered the important part, we're going to go on to the generational quarterback and the it's like, well, oh, okay.
Well, because at the end of the day, it's still a team sport. And I don't give a shit how good your quarterback is. If your line sucks, if your defense sucks, you're going to lose.
Yeah, but the way it is, if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have nothing.
Yep, no. So, good quarterbacks can take average and make them better.
Yeah, but to that point,
bad better.
I will grant you this. How much more can you talk about a guy who hasn't played in the league yet? So he's got potential, guys. He's generational as far as a talent, but we don't know what that'll translate to. So that's about all you can say,
That really is it.
So that's fine. We can do that.
All right.
Get into all these different skill positions and see what we think about that. See if it shapes our
fandom.
Yeah, into a little bit less negative.
Yeah, we went pretty deep this podcast. I think we were positive, for the other shows that we've done. But
Well, it's got to eke out sometimes. I mean, because I think if a Jaguar fan watches this, they'll totally understand. You know, this is just bubble. It bubbles up because it's just what it's our identity at this point as Jag fans. You know, we're I don't know what you call it. I'm sure there's some sort of analogy for it, but I'm out.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you for joining us. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, drop us a comment. Let us know what you think. Let us know if we missed somebody. Let us know if you have a different opinion. We're receptive to that, and we will comment. So, on behalf of the Brothers Grimm, I'll leave you guys with a big ass Duval. And that's how we'll end it.